the chat is part of the recording, only anything that is said. So don't be shy if you'd like to post any comments or questions in the chat. Is not going to be part of the recording. All right, so by staying in this webinar, you agree to the recording, and I'll give you a copy of the link. Let's go ahead and get started here. My name is Angela Gama. I'm an instructional technology trainer for the district. Here's my email and phone number in case you need to reach me for any training needs. We help all of our staff to get training on the technology you use. So Microsoft, Google, Nearpod, Schoology, anything you may need as far as technology goes, we can train you on. So what are we going to focus on the next 30 to 40 minutes? We are going to talk about what can you do with Google Slides, how you can add style to your presentation, add content, of course, to your presentation, how do you present your slides, share and collaborate on files, and a quick item for my teachers here in the webinar: how do we embed these Google Slides in Schoology? I've seen that Google works better when it comes to embedding in Schoology instead of using Microsoft PowerPoint. So there's a quick video that we can have here so you can learn how to embed. And we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. I will be sharing the attendance link also once I'm done presenting the content, so we can focus on the content and not on filling out a form right now. Okay, so what can you do with Google Slides? So basically, Google Slides is the Google app equivalent to your Microsoft PowerPoint. Your Google Slides don't require any type of special application installed in your computer. It is all web-based, and you can use this not only to present information in front of a group, but I've seen teachers use this for this remote learning or distance learning to record themselves explaining how to solve an equation or how to solve a problem inside of the Google slide, and then they can present some questions or projects that they need to do on their own. So you can use this to also do some lessons with your students in Schoology. So this is a great resource for you. It is super user friendly, and your students are able to navigate through the different slides very easy. So there are different items that we can insert to our slides to make our content more interactive and easier to understand for your students. Everything is automatically saved as any other Google application, so there's no fear of having your changes lost as you're working and something happens, like your computer restarts or your computer freezes or anything like that. Your changes are going to automatically be saved. Okay, so how do we access or how do we create these Google Slides? Like in any other Google app, we're going to start by going into the www.google.com website. And we always recommend to use your Chrome browser when working with your Google apps. But you can certainly use Internet Explorer and Microsoft Edge, although it's not as smooth as working with Chrome browser. So once you reach this website, you will see in the top right corner this waffle icon, provided you are signed in to your Google account. If not, you'll see the sign in button instead of your avatar for Google, which is typically your initial, like you see in this image for me. So I'm going to click on that waffle icon and I'll see the list of Google applications available to me. I will find in those icons the one that is for our Google Slides. So I can go ahead and just click on that yellow sheet to access my Google Slides homepage. Now, another way you can access your Google Slides app is directly in your Google Drive. So if you're already working with your Google files in your Google Drive, you can go ahead and directly start a brand new Google Slides by clicking on that new button. And you can then, from the drop down, select the option for Google Slides. So it's a really quick 3-step process to get to your Google Slides. Now, if these are too many steps, you can just go ahead and type in your URL field slides.google.com and you will be in your Google Slides dashboard. So these are the 3 main ways that you can access your Google Slides. Now, when you access your Google Slides homepage, it's going to contain all of your Google Slides files that you have in your Google Drive. It's just going to show you all of those files here. You see on the top left corner, it says Slides, so that's how you know that you're in your Slides dashboard. Now, you have across the top a few tiles, and the first one that we see here for the blank is to create a brand new Google Slides file from scratch. It'll give you a blank slide that you can start inserting all sorts of content and whatever it is that you need. However, if you don't want to start from scratch, there are pretty cool templates that Google provides for you to not have to work as much as far as styles goes. You can have some ideas. There's some inspirational ideas here that you can see and think of how you can fit the content you want to show your students through any of these designs. Now, these have placeholders, so you can just replace the text with your own content, and it saves you a lot of time. So instead of starting from a brand new Google Slide file, you can first explore the different templates available. Now, these are not the only 4 available. We have some more in the template gallery. If we click on that link, the template gallery text, it'll take us to the entire gallery with all the templates available in Google Slides. Okay, so let's assume that we're going to start a brand new Google Slides file. Well, I'm going to talk about the window later on. Let's first talk about now if we have some Microsoft PowerPoints already in our computer and I want to have them available as a Google slide. So it's super, super easy to just convert my PowerPoints into Google Slides. I have to first access my Google Drive, and then I'm going to upload into my Google Drive any PowerPoints that I have. So by going into that new button, I will click on the upload file, and then I can select the PowerPoints that I need to upload. And when I right click on those files, I can see open with, and then I select Google Slides. That will open my PowerPoint in a Google Slides platform, and we will take a look at that in a sec. So this is what your Google Slides window looks like. As you can see, it's a little bit more streamlined than a PowerPoint. If you've never accessed a Google Slides before, we don't have that robust toolbar in the top with 20 different tools there that are quite intimidating sometimes. We just have the basic tools available in the top, so this makes it for our students a lot easier to work with. So in the top, I always recommend to title our files first because it's super easy in Google to start creating a bunch of files that we end up not needing, and they're all untitled presentations, or we're opening templates and they start accumulating in our drive. So make sure that you name your presentation so you can clearly identify those files that you need and you're not just deleting files that you need by accident. So by clicking in the untitled presentation text, you just rename your presentation and you're done. You don't need a save. Remember, everything is saved automatically, including any changes to the name of your file. Then we have our nice and easy to use toolbar there. These are some of the tools that we have. We will see how we can activate the other type of tools that we may need for images, shapes, tables in a second. But that's pretty much the majority of the tools that we typically need. Now, on the right-hand side of our window, we have the comment icon. This is to add a comment in the overall file. This is great when we're collaborating with peers, when creating lessons together. We can add comments about the changes we may need to make instead of going in and making the changes ourselves. Or if you just have comment permission for this file, you can add the comment by clicking there. Then we have our present button. We will talk about that later on our webinar about the different tools we have when presenting. We can also share our file to collaborate live with others, and this is one of the key features in our Google applications. The great engine that Google has, that when you're working together, you see almost immediately what the other person is working on and what changes are being made. So this is really powerful. And then the sixth item I have here is our Google account. So when we're working in our computer, we sometimes log into our personal account, and we don't realize that when we're creating all of these Google Slides, sometimes we're logged in with our personal account. So when it comes to going and finding our Google Slides, we sometimes want to look for them in our work account and we don't see them there. So we get pretty freaked out by not seeing them there and like, oh my God, all the work I made was for nothing. Well, make sure that you're using the correct Google account when working with your slides so you can find them easily. Okay, so then let's go ahead and add style to our presentation. There's not really an order of how you like to, you need to add all of this or customize, but sometimes if we have an idea of the topic or the lesson, you may want to add the style and then add the content to see how that looks according to the style you chose. For instance, when I started creating the slideshow for my Google Slides, I knew that yellow was the color that represented Google Slides, so I wanted to choose a style that had some yellow. So you may want to play with the styles first before you add the content, or vice versa. So it's up to you what style of that you have. So one of the things that you can do to customize your slides is changing the theme. This is the overall design that you will have across your slideshow. It gives you a palette of colors that work well together. You don't have to be a professional designer to have your slides look amazing. Google Slides have already these built-in designs that you can choose, and it changes the fonts, the background, the font color, the style. And if something in the design doesn't go well, you can always change it. So it's not like you're not stuck with what Google gives you. You can always switch it around. Now, if you're working with a particular image or a particular content that doesn't go well with the design, you maybe want to give it like a red color, and the color that the design has doesn't go well, it's not contrasting enough. You can change the background color of specific slides without altering the rest of the design that you chose as part of your theme. You can also choose a picture as a background image for that particular slide, or you can choose to create your own background and add it to the theme so it goes across the entire slideshow without having to go to each slide and changing the background colors individually. So you can see here that I can choose the color if I want a specific solid color, or I can choose an image, or I can reset the entire background to have it be the theme background. And I can add it to the theme if I decide that that style or that background goes better with the content that I'm presenting. The other option that we have here is a layout. This is more about how your content is going to be displayed. Now, there are certain slides that already have like placeholders for the common ways that you present information. For instance, we have the title slide. So I can choose this type of content or this type of layout, sorry, and I will have that big font in the center where I can just start typing my title. Now, if I'm going to add more content like information text, I can choose to have it in one column like the title and body, or two columns, or just a title and I'm going to add an image to that slide. So these are layouts that are built in so I can just choose it and not have to spend too much time trying to adjust the size of my font and where my columns are going to be, create those manually. You can just choose one of these and then your content will be adjusted. I recommend choosing the layout first and then adding the content. But if for any reason you added the content already, you can change the layout and see how Google kind of transforms that to that layout. You may have to play with it a little bit to look better. Then as you start adding your content, you may need to add additional slides. When you create a brand new slide, Google slide file, it just comes with one slide. So you may need to add additional slides, and that's super easy to do. There is this plus sign with the drop down arrow on the left hand side of our toolbar. It's the very first option. There I have it as number 1. We just click there and it's going to add a new slide after the one that we have selected. So it's very important to understand which slide you are in before clicking this option. But if you happen to add a new slide in the wrong place, or you like to reorder your slides, you can always move your slides around. You can click and drag up or down to move those slides. Another thing you may need is to delete slides. This is very useful especially when you're using a template that it has 20 slides already probably in the template. You may want to delete a few of them that you don't need, or if you added more slides than necessary, you can go ahead and right click on the slide and then you can select delete from that menu that shows up. The other thing you can do is duplicate those slides. If you have certain slides that have already the layout, the style that you need, and you don't want to manually format another slide, you can just duplicate the slide and then replace the text or replace the image with the new content that you'd like to show. So it's really easy. Right click and then duplicate, and then it's going to show that slide under that one that you duplicated. Super easy to arrange slides. Now, another thing that you probably will have to do is add and edit content in these slides. The great majority of these options are found in the insert menu. Just think, I want to insert something. Where do I go? To the insert menu. So there's a wide range of options here that we can add, so we can kind of think of the content that I want to show my students with all these different items that I can use in slides. So the first one that we have here is the image. So when I click on the image, I can upload an image that I have from my computer by going to the folder where I have it, and then it's going to open. The other option, very, very convenient. search the web. So if I don't have an image saved in my computer, I can go ahead and search the web without having to go anywhere else. It's going to open a panel on the right hand side where I can search for any image, and I'm going to select the image that I like and I can insert the image. So I can have that panel open and then search for different images without having to go back and forth and selecting this option. I can close it when I don't need it. Then we have our drive, any images that I have in my Google Drive, Google Photos, if you have the URL. This is not very common. And then the last one, if I just want to take a picture with my camera, with my device's camera, I can go ahead and select that one. It'll activate the camera. You can take the picture and it'll be inserted into the slide. The other one that we probably will use the most is our text box. So if you select a layout that doesn't have the text boxes included, or if you need more text boxes than the layout has, you will have to insert your text boxes. Google Slides doesn't work like Docs or a Word document where you just click and you see the cursor and you just start typing. You actually have to create the item where you're going to insert your text. And this is with a text box. So when you click on the text box, your cursor is going to change to this cross, and you will have to click and drag and draw the size of your text box. Once you finish drawing your text box, it's going to show up just like it does here with the blue frame and the handles in the corner. And in a sec, I'll talk about what each one of these little items do. So once you draw your text box, you can click inside of it, and then you will see that cursor and you can start typing. You can select your text and start formatting all of that. The other option we have is your audio. This is great now for your distance learning, for your kiddos that are in the earlier ages, or if you want to do some sort of scaffolding or just have your students hear your voice. You can record your voice, giving them directions of what they need to do or explaining the lesson instead of having them just read the slide. You can go ahead and record your audio, and this is a little bit of a inconvenience that Google hasn't built in a microphone so we can record. It's not available. We have to record our audio before, save it in our drive, and then go into this option and upload it to our slide from one of these options. So my drive, share with me, or recent. It has to be located in one of these options, and the most common one will probably be my drive, because if you're recording your voice, you will probably save it in your drive. So this is really powerful nowadays. At the same time, you can record a video. So if you want to do a screencast showing your students how to access a specific website, how to access your materials in Wonders or Connected or anything, you can record your video and then post it in one of your slides, and then your students will know how they can do it as part of their lesson. Again, you have to pre-record it, and then when you select it, you'll see this same option to insert your video. You have to locate it in your Google Drive. Now, another thing is shape that you can add. This is great if you're doing step by step. I don't know if you've seen in my slides, if you notice that in the 1, 2, 3, there's circles with the numbers and they're colorful, so we can clearly see where's the 1, where's the 2, where's the 3 instead of plain numbers. You want to identify like how do you say this? If you want to draw the attention to something with arrows, or just you can be more playful with these shapes. You can format them as much as you can, be as colorful. So this is really fun to have in your slides. Table. If you like to structure your data in a layout table format, you can just click table, you draw the size of your table, and then it'll be inserted. You can pull some of these options for your tables to add or remove columns or rows, so don't stress out about not getting the exact size when you choose to insert a table. can add charts to have more easier like to analyze your data or whatever it is that you're showing your users or your viewers. Bar, column, line, pie, or from Sheets, which is Excel in Google. If you haven't participated in one of the Sheets webinar, there are some recorded ones in YouTube if you'd like to learn a bit more about that. Our diagrams, these are pretty cool if you want to show a process in a more colorful, easier to understand way. There are certain ones that you can just click on and then you'd replace the text with whatever your content is. So it's super easy to create. You don't have to spend a lot of time creating all these arrows or boxes or ovals, anything. Super easy. And then the word art. So you will click here, you will see the box where you can insert the text that you like to have as a word art. And then see this example, I just typed hello and it gave me colorful font. I can always format this to any other color, the border style, anything you like to do here, you can do it with word art. And then lines, if you want to connect some items with lines, you can go ahead and select that option and pick your arrows, your curves, anything there. All right, so after you are done adding the content, you can go ahead and edit some content with some tools that are available there. The first thing is that I wanted to have you see is that we can change the size of our slide. So if we're going to add more content, the slide is not enough space, we can select a wider or a shorter type of slide. So there's a drop down with different types of sizes, and I think there's one for custom, so you can determine the size that you want your slide to be. However, the toolbar that we have up in the top will help us edit and format our content. So we have it split up into the different categories here. So the first one we already saw is to create that new slide. We have our undo or redo. I use it undo a lot when I add something that I didn't intend to, or it doesn't look right, or I click undo and then back to it returns one action, goes back one action. Redo, the printing, the formatting. So you're probably going to use this a lot once you learn what it is if you don't know what it is. So when we're working in slides, we're going to work with different objects. So we have our text box, we have our images, we have our shapes. So by just formatting one of these items, for instance, I have 5 arrows. I just changed the color of one arrow, the border and all that. I can copy the format of this arrow to the rest by using this tool, this little brush, instead of having to go in and manually change each one of the rest of the arrows. So this is a time saver. You can zoom in or zoom out with that magnifying glass. You can select an item with your arrow there, your pointer. We have the shortcuts to add some of the popular items there, the text box, image, shape, or line. We can change the color of an area, change the color, style, border for the border. We have the text formatting options there. We can bold, italicize, underline. We can add links or comments, and we got the text alignment here. We can also do some numbered or bulleted list. We got some indentation and remove the text formatting. So there's a few formatting tools there that are visible at all times. However, when we have a particular item that is not text, like a table or an image, we have additional options, and we will see them pop up in our toolbar whenever we have that object selected. So for instance, and this is true across the board, Google Apps in general and Microsoft, When we're working in a particular file, and in this example, I have a table under the text. So my cursor is right after the text. I only see in my toolbar the tools that are applicable to the text. And I want to, let's say, modify my table. So what I need to do to see the tools for my table is click inside of the table so I can see those additional options in my toolbar. If I don't click inside of my table, Google will think that I don't need them right now, so why have them available there? So we need to click on the image or on the table or on the shape for me to see those particular tools that I will temporarily need for that object. I hope that makes sense, and it's useful for you to understand when you need to change the style or the format of something that is not text or that you have in your toolbar. Okay, so when you're working with objects, again, you're going to work with a lot of objects in your slides, and I thought it was important for us to understand our different pointers and what we can do when we have a particular pointer in our as our mouse pointer. So, like I said, when we click on the insert shape or insert text box, your cursor will change to look like this. It's a cross, and it's indicating that your computer is ready for you to draw the size of whatever it is that you selected. So when you have that, it's waiting on you to draw it. Then next, okay, let me see. I thought I stopped presenting. So then once you draw your image or your text, not your image, but your text or your shape, you will see it with that border, and it has those handles, those little squares in the frame or in the border of the image or the text box are handles. So if I want to move the object, let's say I want to place it in the bottom left corner of my screen, I will have to make my pointer look like this. So the 4-arrow cross. So where can I place my mouse so my pointer changes so it's ready to move the object? Well, I have to place it inside of the object, or sometimes I also get it when I place it right on the edge of my image or my text box. Also note that it's not in one of the little rectangles or squares that I have in the edge. It's right in between those squares. So don't place it in right on top of the square. You won't get it that way. So if I want to resize my objects, my text box, my images, my shapes, I can shrink them or make them bigger when I have this diagonal 2-arrow pointer. And when will I see that pointer is when I place my mouse in the corners of my object. So that's when I will see the diagonal, and it'll grow in proportion, so it'll grow height and width. Now, if I want to make it just taller or shorter, I will have to have my pointer look like this, the up and down arrow. So I will have to place my mouse on top of any of these to change the size and height of my object. If I want to make it wider, I can make my mouse look like the double arrows, but in a horizontal way, if I place it in one of the outer frame right there in the sides. And if I like to rotate the object, this is just for Google. In Microsoft, it looks a little bit different, but when I rotate the object, it'll look like this, and it changes my pointer to that when I place my mouse right in that little circle in the top. That's the item where I can just rotate it to have it be in any angle that I choose. Okay, so let's go ahead and now talk about how we present our content. This is, of course, if we're in front of an audience. When we're back into the classroom, you may need this. So there is an option in the bottom of our slide that you can add any speaker notes. So any key items that you like to remember when a particular slide is up, so you don't have to memorize anything, you can just do an outline of the things you should not forget when that slide is up. So that's really handy for you to present. Then when you're ready, you can click on that present button that we saw in the beginning that's in the top right corner of our screen, and you will see a couple of things pop up in your screen. So this first window is going to give you a tile of the next slide. It'll show you which slide you're in. You can have that timer go so you can see how long you've been presenting. And you have additional tools in this pop-up window. However, this is not very nice to have when you have only one screen. So you may close this window at any time if it's in your way or if you don't need it. So it won't end your presentation. However, the bottom toolbar that we see whenever we mouse around our slide is pretty powerful because it has a few items that we will need. So the first thing that we can do is move on to the next slide. Or if we'd like to jump to a specific slide, instead of going one by one, I can click on the slide number and then it'll give me a drop down with all my slides and I can select the one that I want to display. You can also use your keyboard to move between your slides. You can use your arrows to go back or forth between your slides, which is probably the most used. I use the keyboard instead of this toolbar. Then we also have a built-in Q&A in our Google Slides. So if you like to have a space for your audience to post any questions when you're presenting, you can enable this by clicking in the Q&A, and then it'll display a URL for your audience to access. And then they can type any questions and you will be able to see them in that window that says the audience tools. You can start the Q&A and you will see those questions pop in this window. So again, if you have two screens, that'd be the way to go. You can also use a built-in pointer. So if you don't have a pointer, an external pointer, you can use the one built in here to draw the attention of your audience to a particular part of your slide. Your pointer is going to turn into this red dot that will be helpful to use in your slideshow. And then if you like to exit your presentation view, you can just click on exit, or in your keyboard, you can hit escape. All right, so you can also share your Google Slides with others in case you want to work together building a lesson, or you can share your Google Slides with others so they can view it only. If you want to share your knowledge that way, you can do that by clicking on the share option in the top right corner. And this is, I know, repetitive if you've been in our other Google webinars, but we like to kind of reinforce that knowledge because this is the very powerful feature in Google. So we need to understand the sharing piece 100%. So we click on the advanced option, the number 2, and I can see who can access my Google Slides. I see that this one is private right now and my name is there because I'm the owner. I want to change those sharing settings to something else because I want others to view, to edit, or to comment on this. So there's two main categories that I can share this with. So I can choose people outside of Modesto City Schools be able to access it, or people within my organization. So anyone that is part of Modesto City Schools. So the first one will not require people to sign in because I'm just letting anyone access it. But the second one I have there will require people to sign in and verify that they're part of Modesto City Schools. So think about who you want to give access. Now, if you've given access to others and you want to revoke those permissions, or you like to just turn off those links, you can always come back here and turn your links off. So that will unshare your slides with anyone that you've shared it before. Then after you decide who can view your Google slide, you need to determine what they can do. So the edit, again, great to collaborate with others. Giving them editing permission will allow them to add, to remove, to move around slides and content, change the background, change everything. So it's an all or nothing kind of deal. You can't limit, oh, you can only work on slide 1 or slide 2. This is something that you need to work together with your group. I always recommend creating your slide show like backbone. So just build all your slides and then you can divvy up the work with the different sections that you're going to include and have each person work on a specific section. So I'd seen that work best with a group. We can give someone commenting permission. So this is something that you can do if you don't want them messing with the actual structure or content of your slideshow. They can make comments about what they think that it could be changed or checked instead of having them editing the content. And the view, great for sharing templates or just giving access to your lessons without them uh, going ahead and editing anything. If a teacher finds that your lesson it needs a little bit of tweaking to adjust to their class, they can always make a copy of that slideshow and then they can modify the content without altering your original. So then once you determine who and what they can do, you will have the link and you can post it anywhere you like. And you will see this icon show up next to your file, indicating that that file is shared. Now, if you're going to work with a group of specific people, you can only give them access to your file by going into that share, entering those individuals into that people field, determining what type of permissions you're going to give them, adding a note to give them a little bit more information about what they need to do or why you're sharing that with them. And then you hit send and they'll get an email indicating what type of permission they have to the file. You can always revoke those permissions or change the permissions by going into that same option, and then you can switch the sharing or revoke by clicking on the X and it'll be removed from the list of who has access. All right, so then you can always grab that Google slide and download it as something else. So for Google Slides, we have the PowerPoint, of course. We got also the PDFs, very popular, and the image files if you want them to be as part of an image. So a little thing to think about, and I forgot to mention this in the beginning when we talked about converting PowerPoints to Google Slides. If you're converting or downloading, I recommend always before um, presenting your content, test it out, go through the presentation on your own to make sure that your animations or your slides are displaying the content like you want it to be, because a lot of features that we have in PowerPoint are not supported in Google Slides. So some of that may be lost. And when you're presenting, the last thing you like to add to your day is stress about worrying about your presentation not going well. So it's hard to troubleshoot right in the minute you're presenting. So you want to do it before and make sure that everything works well, and then you can go ahead and present more confidently. Okay, so the last thing, I know it's been quite a while that we've been talking about Google Slides, but the last thing I want to show my teachers especially is how to embed in Schoology. Now, many of us who are not familiar with what embedding is, I have an image about how it looks between adding my Google Slides as a link versus embedding the content in my Schoology. So when we add something as a link, let's say I created a link with anyone with the link can view, so my students can go through the lesson, and I add that link to my Schoology course. When a student opens it, even though they can't modify anything, they see everything inside of the Google Slides window. So they see the toolbar, they see the present button, they see everything there, the slideshow tiles on the left. And for the younger age, it's probably not very easy or user friendly. This is a little bit confusing. Like, what am I supposed to do? Am I going to edit? How do I move between slides? So it's not the perfect way of presenting that type of content in Schoology. When embedding, it's going to look just like in presentation mode. My students do not have to go anywhere else or click anything. They will see the slideshow here. They can just move between slides, go back and forth. They can go full screen. So it's more user friendly. It's better for students to see the content this way than adding a link. So if you're interested in adding your content, embedding it in Schoology, I have a video here that you can watch at your own time. I'm not going to play it for you because I have others here that probably are not interested in this, and we're already close to the hour. So I'm going to share this PowerPoint, and you can just access that slide, play that video, and you can learn how you can embed those Google Slides in your Schoology course. Okay, so enough about me, not about me, about Google Slides, enough me talking about Google Slides. I'm gonna open up the session so you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question if you have any. I'm going to paste the attendance form link in our chat so we can take a minute completing this form. This webinar counts towards the 0.5, so make sure that you respond to the form. Otherwise, I won't see you in that response sheet and I won't mark you as being here. So thank you for joining me in this morning, and I hope you learned a lot. And again, if you have any questions, just unmute yourselves and ask that question.